Hey everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program RP-0. We are joining Boris again out at the space station Tremonia. He has already started his second spacewalk of this mission, where he is going to be placing some of these KIS strut connectors and cleaning up a few other things as we get prepared to move the drive module around. He's got one KIS strut port already placed, and he'll be moving around to place a second one, and then collect one of these. We can leave that third one there because it's kind of right where we want it. Now we did get two other struts placed on the hab module here to connect it to the main portion of our research station here. That was something we had intended to do for a very long time, but just kind of neglected to do so. Anyway, a bit of consideration about which thruster ports to relocate and how to do so, but we will run these this thruster and some of these ports back, but we have this strut, these two struts really, and they are apparently too massive to fit inside any of our remaining KIS container pods, which is a little unsettling. I didn't think that we packed that much stuff in there, nor did I think that standard struts would take up so much space, but in fact, they do. They take up a lot of space. One more thruster to collect now that we have a little free room in our inventory. We'll have to decide what to do with some of it a bit later. We've got a few other of the pipe ports we can collect on the other side. Just taking a quick survey of the station before we run back to drop off these two thruster ports now, and try to figure out what to do about our last remaining strut, which might just have to sit in Boris's inventory for a little while. There, we found enough room in an empty container for it. But we will just have Boris jump right back in. We'll move his inventory stuff around. It is time to move the drive module into position now that it has properly configured thrusters thanks to a donation made by Tremonia Station. We'll just ease it out of the bay a little bit. We do have no solar panels on this, but a little bit of battery, quite a bit of battery. Hopefully it should give us more than enough runtime on all the electronics to hopefully get this thing moved into position. Trying to do my best here to operate only on a single axis at a time, but of course these thruster ports were placed by Boris. They're not exactly even, and we tried to get a bunch of fuel out of it just to make it a little lighter, a lot easier to maneuver, so it would react a little quicker. But there really wasn't just a whole lot of places to put it and still leave some fuel in it for these thrusters themselves. So we've selected this port, but of course, yeah, there's just no way we're going to get that to fit on there. I completely forgot about that consideration while assembling this thing, that we have kind of a narrow path there to our primary station docking ports, but we do, however, have this other free port here at the other end of the solar panel and radiator assembly, which I guess is really our only option. We don't have a docking port at the bottom of the hab module, just that Agena core. And we don't have one towards the top because that's where the cupola is also. So this is really our only other free port, except for the one that the shuttle is docked to, that this drive module will fit on, which is awkward. I really don't know how well this is going to work. I mean, the central hub for the station was a little bit offset, but there was enough ballast in the tanks between that life support / fuel tank at the bottom of the hab module, the black hex painted one, and the massive amount of supplies that the Skylab module can hold, that I was hoping we could get some kind of even balance there by moving stuff around. So we're going to go for the same method. We're just going to have to reinforce a lot of things. Of course, this surface propulsion engine doesn't give you a whole lot of oomph, but never really tried something like this before, so I don't know how well exactly it's going to react. or how stable it's going to be. But, you know, the only real way to find out is to just try. So we will nudge it up against the docking port and, of course, be way off axis a little bit. So we'll try to realign, and then, of course, thrusters not being perfectly aligned, hand built by Boris, does make docking a little bit interesting, but we are, in fact, able to get hard dock. And then we will just transfer a whole lot of fuel around, mostly from the shuttle, and then eventually we'll start shifting stuff from the station itself. But I guess that's really quite uninteresting. So, moving swiftly along. We'll skip ahead just a few hours in life to where Boris is now making his third spacewalk to go move a bunch of stuff around, considering our plan for docking did not go nearly as well as we had hoped. So we will first equip his drill, and then try to play the You Can't Click on Me game with some of these KIS connector ports. But we do need to collect some of those, and why not with these two docking pipe node module things. Anyway, so we've collected 4 of our KIS strut adapter things, and we're going to go down to the end of the solar panel array. There is actually this little fuel tank where these thrusters are connected, and another standard strut. Oh good. We will just use that as kind of an alignment indicator so that we can attach these strut ports and then link them to the drive module. This should give us some added rigidity beyond what just the docking port itself will provide, which is surprising but not extraordinarily substantial. That's 3 out of 4. We just have to link this 4th one, which of course requires being a little closer. There we go. So that should make a pretty solid bond between the drive module and the solar panel array. We just really should try to reinforce the solar panel array to the station itself. That is, of course, also connected through a docking port, but we will need some more of these strut connectors if we're going to do that. Nice piloting there, Boris. Guess that's why you are an engineer and not a pilot. There's a port we can connect. That's 3 in our inventory. We do need 1 more, and I know we passed it. It's down on the HAB module, but we'll figure that out in a little bit. It would be nice if we had 4 more so that we could do another quad strut brace thing, but we don't. We brought some up with us on the shuttle, and we had some here, of course, already attached to the sides of the station. And yeah, that very first truss piece that connects to the docking port, the collision meshes on it are not very convenient, I should say. They don't want to cooperate very well, but we'll just get one attached here to this primary tank and onto this second truss piece. Come on. Now it's going to play the You Can't Click on Me game. There we go. Linked. So for right now, we're just going to have to deal with the 2 extra truss piece, or the 2 extra KIS strut attachments. And that's going to do it for Boris's 3rd and final spacewalk. So we will get him back in the shuttle now with a couple of ports profit, and continue on with the rest of our mission. About a day or so later, we've gotten all of the hatches buttoned down, except for this one. Now it's buttoned down. Close hatch. There we go. The crew is safely stowed, and it is time for them to disembark from Tremonia Station and return to a lower orbit to fulfill a contract that we need to pay for this whole thing, and then head on home. So, a little bit of gracefully pulling away from the station, the redeployment of our solar panels, making sure both of our fuel cells are running. Alright, we just need to get below 350 kilometers for our apogee, which is a fairly small correction. Nothing we shouldn't be able to handle. We have just gobs and gobs and gobs of Delta V available to us, so it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. And I'm certain we'll have well more than enough fuel to get home. Just a quick check of our fuel tank, and we'll move a little bit around just to have a good balance. Light up the engines a little early because the authority of these thrusters on such a heavy vessel is a little suspect. But it was just a quick burn along our retrograde vector to bring our apogee down. Now moving around to our new perigee, we will correct back to retrograde and make another burn to lower our current apogee. We need to get our whole orbit below 350 kilometers. So just a quick touch there. There we go. Contract counter is counting, which is good. Even after this interruption telling us that our launch pad is now ready to go, which is fantastic. And something got finished building. There's the moon moving around behind us. Now I was watching from this track to be able to see if maybe we could get a nice approach on Cape Canaveral. You know, it would be kind of cool to set this thing down on a runway. I don't think I've quite got the glide slope or the reentry characteristics of it quite figured out enough yet to do this with accuracy, but it doesn't mean I can't try. And a quick check of Kerbal alarm clock says we've got about 8 days before we have to do something else in someplace else. So all that should be pretty good. Alright, well, there's our orbit coming across Cape Canaveral. The contract has been fulfilled. All we have to do is successfully land. And that, of course, is the really, really fun part about space shuttles. They're very hard to very effectively land. So I've just kind of like taken a shot in the dark on this node. We'll try moving it a little bit more based on what we know from the last time we deorbited one of these. Move ourselves around to our maneuver node, which is, of course, just a braking burn. It's not a huge correction, and I am going to just be watching. Oh, good. One of our engines didn't fire. There we go. Much, much better. So we'll fire down the node. I will shut down a little early. We're going to keep our perigee relatively high. We will try to balance some of our fuel towards the nose of the craft for aerodynamic stability. And then go ahead and get ourselves warped around mostly to the other side of the planet. But it does look like we're going to have to deflect north just a bit if we're going to hit Cape Canaveral. We'll shut down our fuel cells and close up the cargo bay. It's also a good time to vent our waste products, carbon dioxide, poop, and pee, out the door. Alright, and while we're here, we will ditch the remainder of our liquid oxygen and our liquid hydrogen. We won't really need to run the fuel cells anymore, and it does save us a little weight, which hopefully that will be helpful. Anyway, we are in the atmosphere now, so it's time to bring our nose up a little bit and adjust for reentry. Now, I have not even opened up the atmospheric autopilot window because we don't need it. We're actually... Oh man, that's pretty. Yes. Anyway, we don't need atmospheric autopilot on this thing. It's actually stable enough to be flown by hand the entire way through reentry. What I do want to do, however, is open up this aftmost fuel tank. We're basically going to shift fuel between the cockpit fuel tanks and this rear fuel tank to help us achieve balance based on whether or not we want to keep the nose up or if we want to fly level. And of course, it's going to require some other adjusting to keep it within that realm of stability as we burn off fuel. So we're going to try to deflect north just a little bit. So as we're this high up in the atmosphere still, kind of keeping that offset angle is a little difficult. We'll move some fuel to the back. That'll help keep the nose up. Even if it means we'll be a little less stable, that's fine. We just need to deflect ourselves northward a little bit. Try to get us a little closer to Cape Canaveral. So I've done you all the gracious favor of speeding most of this up for you in post. A quick check of the map view to see how our course trajectory is going, and we're still trying to deflect north. I was looking at the wrong line for a good portion of this. I was actually watching the track of the space station, which was not moving, versus our telemetry, which very, very much was moving. We actually have, we'll shift our course northward enough to where we're going to actually go above the Gulf of Mexico entirely. But not that it matters. We're coming in way short. This is still not at the point when I even remotely recognized any of that, which makes me angry a little bit. This is about where I recognized that where our course was going and decided to just level it out and play it straight, because we weren't even over the continent of North America yet. So there's a little bit of deciding nose up during descent, flatten it out a little bit during ascent, try to find an angle that was tolerable to me as we finally get into some flame effects. And a quick view from the cockpit. That was a little disorienting and sped up footage. I apologize. But here we are crossing over the Gulf of California and then on over Mexico. And nice casual flame effects. Not a real high G load here on the crew and not a whole lot of stress on the airframes, best I can figure. It was extraordinarily well behaved. A little bit of shimmy and wiggle here, but nothing that really threatened to send us spiraling out of control. I'm very happy to report. Just a little balancing of the fuel between aft and forward. And there's a little bit more of the flame effects that we were kind of looking for as we're starting to get into some lower, thicker atmosphere. But it looks like we're actually crossing over the border between Mexico and the United States, and we're totally not going to hit Florida. Nowhere anywhere near. So I've given up on that dream now. There's really, based on engine placement and angle, unless we nosedive and then pull up real hard, we'll never be able to ullage those AJ-10s into service. And it's not like they give us a whole lot of usable thrust here in the atmosphere anyway. So we'll just bite the bullet and we'll go for a nice grasslands. Yeah, considering where we are, it could very well be marshlands landing also. Not that it matters. But we're down to about 30 some odd kilometers, still just trying to bleed speed and hold in a relatively straight trajectory, even though if we were to stay on this course, we'd miss the state of Florida, which I guess is not as bad as missing the continent of Africa. So I'm getting better. I would just like to point that out before we talk about how badly I missed the runway. But we'll start the nose down in the approach maneuver and just pray for nice, flat, easy terrain. We shall be so lucky. But we'll bring it back down into real-time footage now. This is our actual speed and what I had been dealing with for about the past half an hour or so. But I will go ahead and turn you back over to old me for live commentary during our landing approach. Alright, landing gear is down. Locked. Let's friction control auto. Yeah, let's adjust that right quick. That does duplicate over, right? Okay, good. And so friction control, yes. Need to make sure. Alright, we should be at a safe touchdown speed, so we'll lay off the thrusters a little bit and just let ourselves kind of slide into this. We don't want to get too much vertical velocity built up. So we will just nose down a little bit and then we'll flare and try to bleed off some of this speed a little bit lower. We're hoping for a nice, easy, gentle touchdown, same as before. As smooth as butter. 500 meters, 140 meter per second. Alright, let's pick that nose up a bit. .300 meters. 136 meters per second across the ground. Oh, ground is coming up to meet us. 200 meters. .150. .110 meters per second. 75 meters. Come on, baby, smooth as butter. Smooth as butter, 50 meters. Rear gear touchdown. Nose gear down, brakes, brakes, brakes. Ooh, okay, make sure we're not going to roll off a cliff. That'd be a good idea. Alright, let's up our friction control. Get some authority on these brakes. There we go. Nice and easy. Stopped. Perfect. The crew is down and safe. The shuttle is stopped. Let's lock these brakes on so that we can get a recovery crew out here. Where are we? Louisiana. Okay. Well, hey, we actually we landed in the States. It looks like we landed not too far from civilization. Yeah, look. Hey, there's a city. Surprise! Is there a runway over here I could have parked it on? Not that I'm seeing. Looks like there would have been a ball field. And a great big stutter. Yeah, it does not look like we had the option for airporting it. But, you know. At least they can go in and get some burgers or something. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really do appreciate it. And I will see all of you in the next one. So until then, see you later.